Hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. We all have those moments in life when things just don't work out the way that we intended, right? That relationship that you thought was going to last forever suddenly falls apart. The job that you love disappears, or the family, nobody's listening, nobody's paying attention, or there's dysfunction. So there's so many things in life that leave us trying to pick up the pieces, trying to fit everything back together, and it can feel like your life is in complete turmoil. And I think it's so important that we not be in the space of feeling hopeless. We can feel extremely misguided, misdirected, and that creates a lot of stress. And of course, leaves a lot of unanswered questions. And my guest today is a intuitive psychic medium, I should say. And she works with patients, or sorry, not patients, her clients, to really help them gain clarity, validation, and closure, which is so important. I think we've all had those moments where, there's no closure and things just don't feel right. You're always thinking, well, what's next? What can I do? Well, let's say hello to my guest and we're going to find out what we can do. So let's say hello and welcome to Cheryl Kreft. It's an absolute pleasure having you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. I'm so excited to be here and share this opportunity with you. That's fantastic.
Well, I think a lot of people, certainly need help and want answers. Now, sometimes in life, we have to accept that we just will not have the answers that we are seeking. However, I know that you do provide a lot of clarity and some unanswered questions, answer those questions for people and provide the closure that really can help them move forward in a way that serves them. So I want to talk to you about what it is that you actually do as an intuitive psychic medium.
So when an individual comes to me for a reading, we sit down and we go through all aspects of their life. We are looking at the physical aspects. We are looking at the mental, spiritual, emotional aspects that are engaged in their life at that time. And sometimes when our plate, as I call it, gets flipped upside down, we really need to kind of expand our horizon and look at the other connection pieces to this shift in our life and the opportunities it can bring. I'm always the first one to celebrate when somebody's life blows up. So
I love it. I love it. It's so true, right? Because those challenges are beautiful opportunities to be the next evolution of who you are. And we can fear them so greatly that it, really hinders us from moving forward in a powerful way. So I love that. And I think it's really key to find balance in life in all of those places. As you said, that the plate is flipped over, there's the scrambled mess. and,
oh,
and we don't really know where to start, Cheryl. So, how is it that when you work with your clients, how do you know where to start? What is the process for you?
well, it's a beautiful process because really I start by connecting to who they are, what makes them tick, what their passions and desires are. And I kind of connect to the boundaries that they've placed into their path, because a lot of times I find we have this soul calling, we have this intuitive instinct that's a seed that we're meant to grow. And a lot of times the fear around this really hinders them from stepping forward. So universe usually steps in and blows everything up, and we just kind of collect to the foundation and rebuild that. I give them the steps that are best suited in their path, illuminate things that they didn't recognize are being placed in their path to assist them, and to really trust the inner guidance that is being spoken. A lot of times in our time together, people will say, how did you know that? I haven't told that to anybody. That's intuitively connected to them for a reason. And it's a calling for them. And we explore that. We explore the opportunity with that and all the amazing things that can come from taking that first step, because that is the scariest part in the path.
Yeah, a lot of fear, and fear can be so debilitating, right? So, it's interesting when you're talking about the process, how important is it that the people that you are working with are open to the possibility? Because if you're closed off, I can imagine it might be a little bit tricky to get some of those questions answered that you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely. It all depends with the energy you bring forth. I tell a lot of my clients, I can't do my work if it wasn't for you, and the willingness to be able to step into this position and be vulnerable. And that's something that I find is just a beautiful thing, to trust me and what I can bring forth in that path. But I find that we have to do a little process in the beginning just to build the trust, to connect to them, to things that people don't know, can't research, can't Google, so that they recognize that these words are specific to them and guidance from the other side specific to their path. And once those boundaries are kind of brought down a little bit, then we just dive in. We just go for it.
I love it. I love it. So what does that process look like when you're trying to build that trust? I mean, trust is key in any relationship, right? And
Absolutely.
something as specific and, important as with what you do, there has to be that trust as well.
Absolutely. I actually specifically work with archangels. I love bringing the angels in with the positive light. So what I do is I start with a card pull. I pull these cards, and then intuitively I start connecting and reading into them, and I start communicating how I connect that specifically to their path before they've even said anything to me. And they're usually pretty blown away at how I'm connecting it and what it's resonating as, because they haven't said anything.
Yeah, exactly. They're right there. It's like, wow, we're off to a great start, right?
Right. So if there's relationship dynamics, if there's career dynamics, that's when it presents itself. And we start kind of saying, we're going to explore this, but let's just connect with this first, and then we kind of connect to them physically and make sure that their temple is aligned properly for them so that they can step forth with the path that they're meant to connect with.
Yeah, I love that. And, picking that right card, for the start of the session, I think, that's really interesting, because I think the universe always presents us with the right people at the right time. So, I always encourage people to really listen to what is around you. It's a good indication as to what's going on, with the mindset, what's going on inside. And, our environment is a reflection of what's going on in our inner environment. And if we can really pay attention to that, we have that ability to alter it and alter our experience, quickly as well.
Tania, it's incredible seeing how many times people say, somebody's brought that to my attention a few different times now, or I've really thought about this a few different times and just didn't know how I would do it. I mean, they're given the pieces. It's just building the trust within themselves and not having that doubt that other people are placing in your path. It's your path. You can't carry other people's fears.
Yes. And I think so many people are stuck, with the burden of other people's responsibilities, other people's lives, and it can be overwhelming. Of course, parents, take on, their children's responsibility, and they do everything for the kids, best of intentions, and it's great. They're super parents, right? But, there has to be that boundary, because everyone has their own journey and their own lessons. And of course, kids need to learn, but also, we can take on responsibilities from, everyone around us if that's our nature to do that. And that can lead to some serious stress, dis-ease in the body that can lead to, further illness. So it's important to kind of, measure where we're at, and take a look at how we can move forward in a way that will, help us to live a better quality of life. I think that when we can get the pieces right in our life, things and they're running smoothly, there's a pattern, and it's great to be on that beautiful smooth ride.
Absolutely.
Not always such a smooth ride, right, Cheryl?
I feel like that would just be so mundane at the end of the day.
Yeah, Well, we have to experience, the challenges so we can actually understand and appreciate, the good.
Mhm.
And I think there's so many opportunities for us to learn, throughout our environment. So those challenges are beautiful gifts. And, I want to talk about your gift in general of having the intuitive psychic abilities, because it certainly is a gift. And brings a lot of clarity and vision, and also that leads to action. When we have clarity, we can easily move into action, right? And we can let go
Mhm.
of some of the resistance in our life.
Yes.
So for you, was it something like your abilities? Was it something that you developed over time, or were you born with these intuitive psychic abilities?
So I very much had a lot of specific experiences as a child. I was very intuitive, connected a lot to spirit. I saw them in my room every night. They were very strong with their presence. You hear stories about me as a child, and everybody says how creative and imaginative I was. But really, now looking back, I recognize that was spirit, and I was connecting to the other side all the time. As my path continued and I went into the teenage years, they really put a blockage around that. They really made sure to close that off because I had a lot of lessons to learn, and I really went full throttle with that. And
Mm.
actually, I was seeking assistance during my healing path with a body talk practitioner. And she said, "Did you know how strong your abilities are?" And I was like, "No, I'm just a black sheep. Are you kidding me?"
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, she told me to take a course, and it took me 4 years, but everything aligned. I took this course, it blew my boundaries wide open, and it developed so quickly and so rapid. I was opening practice, I think, 4 months after.
Wow, I
Yeah.
love that. When something feels right, you just know it. There's a
Yes.
deep knowing that you are on the right path. So many people, I think, can experience, Cheryl, to your story, where they've suppressed it, their passion, their talents, and they give up. But it's never too late to reconnect
Never.
with that purpose. And there's so many people, right, that have had dreams that they've let sort of dwindle, and let's reconnect to that. If you have a passion,
Oh,
try to bring it back even in the smallest way, and then that's going to open the door to more positive opportunity and flow to come to you.
Tanya, I can't be the biggest advocate of this because I'm almost 40. I'm reinventing my life completely. I was an analyst before, and now I'm speaking to spirit, and I am making this incredible path that is an incredible impact on people. And it's something I get so excited and passionate about. Just, people trusting me in their path and the impact that they have moving forward. It's the most beautiful and exciting thing ever. I just feel honored for this to be placed in my path. So,
Beautiful, beautifully said. Truly rewarding when you can, help and uplift others and give them some direction, to know that they are on that right path. People love to feel significant. They love to feel validated. It's a human need. It's one of our most,
yeah.
predominant human needs. And I think that, if you provide that support for someone, because especially when someone knows what maybe their talents are, but they've put everybody first, or they've put their passions aside, it can be really challenging to move forward, to really go after what it is that you want. So to have your support and helping to guide them there, I think is really instrumental, and truly life changing, really.
The self-sacrifice is significant these days. People are just going nonstop. I find that we are an energy orb, and we're connecting to 100 different things. And I keep telling people, let's slow it down. Let's
Mm.
make the top three priorities, shift that, put yourself on top, because you cannot give from an empty bucket. It doesn't work.
It's so true, right? And so many people do that, and especially women. Obviously men do it too,
Mhm.
but it is a thing for a lot of women, where you put everybody's needs first, of course, the kids, then it's your spouse, and then everybody else around you. And it can be so ridiculously overwhelming, but it's such a deeply ingrained pattern that you don't even notice it until you've hit rock bottom and there's no more space. You
Yeah.
just have no more capacity to take on anybody else's stuff. And then things can
Mm-hmm.
tend to fall apart, right? And I think in those
Yeah.
moments, there is a sign for us to start taking care of ourselves. It's a little lesson that we got to
Yes.
learn, right? Sometimes we learn it
Oh,
the very hard way.
what a beautiful lesson, though, when we can to rediscover who we are and connect those things that do energize us, and not what our partner engages in, but what we actually get illuminated by. It's an incredible experience when you get to explore that and give yourself permission to explore that.
Yes, when you can remember who you truly
Yes.
are and you can be your best self. And if you can put yourself first, it's such a beautiful thing. And I know many people listening right now are probably thinking, well, that's selfish. If I put myself first, that's very selfish. But in fact, it's selfless because you're giving your
Mm-hmm.
absolute core, being your best self to everyone around you. And that is a gift in itself.
Absolutely. And if you think about even a partnership, what are you attracted to? The individuality of that person. You're connected to who they are. And when that gets lost sometimes, all of a sudden you're looking at the position you're in going, how did we end up here? Well, we lost our individuality. We lost that individual spark. And we need to connect with that because that's required in your path. That's what people are drawn to. And that's meant for you to hold and shine in this world. It's an incredible thing, when you can empower yourself to explore that, engage in opportunities to explore that, and just really feel centered in who you are and what you're bringing forth to the world.
Yes, absolutely. It's interesting because a lot of people tend to lose themselves in a relationship specifically. And,
Mm-hmm.
you have to remember that, what your partner loved about you or what you loved about your partner, drew you to that person. And it's
Yes.
important to keep those elements of yourself, your true self alive. And, if you are in a relationship and you feel like you're just not yourself, then it's a time to really check in with yourself and see what's missing. What did you give up? How to bring that back in, bring those little parts of yourself back together so that you can feel whole. So I think it's so important for anyone in any situation to really feel fulfilled, and you can have
Yes.
fulfillment in your career and not in a relationship or vice versa, or any of those elements. And I think the ideal goal is to have all of those parts of life working. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
wheel, right? We have to have the wheel in perfect alignment for it to optimally work. And when things are off key, so to speak, then it can really, cause a lot of issues in life, and we hit resistance.
It's so true. It is so true. And you put that just beautifully because really it's okay to miss each other. It's okay to have experiences outside of the relationship and bring it forth with that excitement and share, communicate that, but to have that individuality. I think it's when we lose that, we really feel like something's missing and we're not connecting it because we're looking externally when really it's internally. It's that internal, need to explore and engage in new things and challenge yourself in new ways. I think that's the best uh, piece of advice that I give to my clients is explore things that you're not comfortable with. Get that uncomfortable feeling, challenge yourself, push yourself. When my plate was flipped, the first thing I did was jump out of a plane and shoot guns.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's extreme. I love it.
Right? Because I was terrified of heights and I was
Yep.
terrified of guns. So I went at her and I got good at both. It was fantastic.
I
How
love it.
breaking those boundaries, right? Just blow it open.
Yeah, it's I love that because I think we're so sometimes we limit ourselves and we don't know what we are capable of, but we are limitless beings. We are capable of absolutely anything and everything that we want.
Mm,
And so it is wonderful to hear that, you met that fear face on, and you move forward in a way that now that fear is eliminated. You're no longer held back by that limitation.
yes.
So we're going to continue the conversation, and we'll learn more about how you can explore and, gain that clarity back for yourself. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Cheryl Kreft. She is an intuitive psychic medium, and I'm Tania Kolar. You're listening to The Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960 AM. Welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, and today we are talking about how to gain clarity and validation and closure. So my guest today is Cheryl Kreft. She is an intuitive psychic medium, tapping into her abilities to help support her clients to gain that clarity, the validation, and the closure that can be so desperately needed. Oftentimes when you have no closure, you have a lot of unanswered questions. We're going to help to demystify that and help you to, gain some clarity, but also to explore the self, and maybe even tap into your own intuitive abilities. So we'll continue the conversation. Cheryl, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
I would love to hear, when you've worked with your clients, what are some of the common questions that people, come to you to ask or to seek advice about?
Well, I have to say one of the biggest challenges that comes forth with individuals seeking my assistance these days is anxiety. Anxiety is just a radiating energy spiral in their head at this point, and they can't really navigate through that. And for me, we're just breaking this down and taking that energy cycle outside of their body at this point, because what's happening is a lot of people these days are carrying so many emotions and thoughts and fears. And it feels, when I connect to this energy, like people walking in circles constantly. So what I always do is I ask my clients to write this. We need the neurons to recognize that there's closure to these thoughts. So when we are connecting to this thought cycle, we're writing it down. We are putting it in paper. We are releasing it. We are not rereading it. We are not judging it. We are just taking that out of the system and releasing it. And I always ask them to either burn it. I ask them to put it in water and release that into the Mother Earth, and just start doing that regularly, because we need to just calm the neurons in the system at this point. But a lot of people, I find, just need clarity on how to move forward in their life, how to take the next step. A lot of people have gone through significant trauma in the last couple of years, with either jobs being removed, security in the household, family members being affected by COVID. And really, we're just taking that time of decompressing the situation so we can breathe and receive the information and look at specifically what they need to do step forward, either simplistic actions in the day that are going to assist them, actions in their job that are going to help decompress the stress that they're feeling in those moments, or just taking time to explore different things that are being requested from the other side of them, taking opportunities to meditate, to connect internally, to start trusting that dialogue within. There's just so many different things and aspects, but really it's the uncertainty people need clarity through these days. Just guidance and having that exterior communication that's supporting them specifically is so significant. It just takes that fear of what if and the unknown, and just giving validation there is an end point and it is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. The fear and uncertainty, can lead to, of course, a lot of anxiety and stress, as you say. And to be able to write things out and then release it, I think is perfect, because the mind does not like open loops. So,
Yeah.
Right. Which just things are hanging. It just creates that perpetual, anxiety. So to bring that closure in, you can write it out, as you say, release it in some of the ways that you suggested, whether it is burning it or putting it in water. But really important to do that, to take some steps. Of course, meditation, as you say, that's another great vehicle to release a lot of anxiety and stress and release it from the immune system, right?
Oh, and the physical realm too. I mean, we we can't, ignore that as well. But it's also dependent on the person. Some people need stretching and some people need deadlifting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a little more hardcore, right? Extreme.
Right.
I love it. I love it. But I think it's important to recognize that you're not alone in feeling
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed and anxious and fearful. We're in a very different time in the
Yes.
world, and it's normal to have some really intense emotions, but it's also
Yeah.
important that we acknowledge them, feel the emotion, but also let those emotions be released, not suppress them,
Yes.
because then they're going to continually come up, and sometimes they'll come up in ways which is not healthy at all, right? Because the
Well,
body
and
needs to release it.
that's the beautiful part of my work is I specifically look at you, how you're coping with it, how your body's reacting to it, how your mental state is working through and processing the stress. And I bring in the communication that's specific to you on how to move forward, because even though something works for 10 other people, it might not work for the other 3.
Yeah, and that's great that you say that, because a lot of people who have, let's say, sought advice or help,
Mm-hmm.
or modeled somebody else's version of help, and it doesn't work, they think there's something wrong with them, and then they start to beat
Yes.
themselves up again even more, and they create
Yeah.
more of that awful cycle. So,
Yeah.
it's there's nothing wrong with you, right? It's just a matter of
No.
finding what really is customized for you, and
Yes.
what works. So I'd love to hear some examples of some of the clients that you've worked with and the progress that you've helped them. So I know that you've also done
Mm-hmm.
some work with forensics, and utilized that to bring closure to some families. So give us some examples if you can.
Absolutely. Well, I've had, some abuse victims come in, which is a beautiful thing to help support them on connecting to empowering themselves and removing that fear, and how to provide safety for them in their day to day practice and life, and building that security within themselves. I think that is a beautiful part of my work, where they don't have to relive the trauma and we can move forward from that. That is something that I hold so sacred, and just really cherish that people trust me in those kind of situations. A lot of grief, that is a raw, real situation that is intense, especially with parents dealing with grieving children.
Mm.
Uh, that is something that you cannot put words to, particularly, right? Everybody's individual, but it is a very real situation that they need support and clarity through. And they're looking for that closure a lot of times if they haven't received it with the passing of their child. And for the forensic, that's an incredible opportunity that placed itself in my path early on. I was shown that was going to be a significant part of my path, but I never expected it. I'm thinking, earth brain, that it's going to be years down the road when I have all these pieces put together.
Yeah.
But Spirit placed that very early on. I was 6 months into practice with my first case. And that was a significant case, with a young boy. And just be able to support a family through that was something that I will never forget. That was very special to my heart, and I still work with them, and I'm still processing and working on the other side through the clarity and closure of this case. But it's a
Mm.
it's a very real thing with my work, and something that I am excited to be able to support people with my abilities through.
Yeah, I love that, because anybody going through some of those horrific experiences, that you've just touched on, it's soul, wrenching. It's gut
Oh
wrenching.
yes.
It just tears you apart. And
Mm-hmm.
so, to be able to help somebody, move forward in a way that they can, literally move forward, then I think it's
Yes.
so beautiful. Of course, I think one of the things, if any parent loses a child, the first thing is I can't live anymore. Like, my life is over. And how can you move forward is the biggest question. They just believe it's not even possible. There's so many
Mm.
wonderful stories of people who have gone through, serious challenges, losing a loved one, losing their child, and in some cases, really awful experiences. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so beautiful to see that people can move forward. I remember
Mm-hmm.
seeing a show. It was a documentary on a couple that had lost their young son, and that was, some of the comments that were running through their heads. Like the father said he didn't know how the mother was going to survive because her whole world now, all of their worlds were completely shaken, but he just didn't think she would ever get through it. But of course
Mm-hmm.
they did get through it, and they got through it together.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to, have a support system, I think, around you, right? And so if you find that you're alone, then reach out. You can reach out to people like Cheryl, who can maybe help provide you with some of those unanswered questions, to provide the closure that is so desperately needed,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in those challenging times.
And it's incredible too, when I connect to spirit that has passed, how much we as our human brains connect to the last moments where they don't connect to that. They
Mm.
always bring me to the most beautiful, joyous moments, the laughter, the time together, the memories. They'll bring
Mm.
up the most craziest things that make no sense to me. I will communicate it, and the person just dies laughing because they connect to that specifically. And that's what I really love, is reconnecting them to the joy this person brought to their world, and that they ask for this to be continued forward. They're still very much with us in our past. It's just shifted. They're
Mm.
limitless now, and they really love being part of our past. And I feel like when we put clarity around it, it's like losing a limb. You still have that sensation, you still have that connection. It's just a different way of moving forward. We're
Mm-hmm.
just engaging in life in a different manner. And it's the sensations and feelings are still there, but we're just moving forward differently.
Yeah, I think.
Right?
And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting, because I think that we need to give ourselves permission to find joy, even though you may be going through an extremely challenging time. And I think sometimes people get locked in their grief, and they
Mm-hmm.
just think that there's no space for laughter, or there's no space for happiness. I mean, happiness could be fleeting, it could be just for a moment, but you deserve to be
Mm-hmm.
happy. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's important to bring that happiness in and to remember. So it's interesting as well that you were talking about how when you connect, to the other side, where, you're shown the joyous moments, not the maybe awful experiences or the trauma that that person
Mm-hmm.
may have gone through. And I think that's really indicative of how we can look at our life situation. I think it's really important to focus on, a growth mindset, a positive mindset. And of course we're going to experience challenges, right? There's
Yes.
no getting around that. We will, but it's how we deal and cope with the challenges that's going to
Mm-hmm.
define your future, right? So,
Yes.
please give yourself permission in those moments to find a little bit of joy. Even the
Oh
most
yeah.
tiniest bit of joy,
Oh
is going to make a
yes.
huge impact on your life.
And it's not releasing, that person. It's not releasing that memory to move forward. It is, taking that forward and taking the best pieces and moving forward with it. It's a beautiful thing, and we are flooded with incredible things in our day. It's just expanding our view to it. It's everywhere. It's these little moments of joy and giggles, or sharing a moment with somebody and connecting with a stranger and just bringing a smile to somebody's face. That's an incredible thing in the day.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting because when we're so overwhelmed and we're stressed and life is not working out, our view can be very narrow. And
Mm-hmm.
so one way to immediately shift the feeling and the emotions that you're having is to broaden your view. So because we
Mm-hmm.
focus like just directly in front typically. So open it up, right? Peripherally, open that up so that you're now encompassing a greater view, like physically with your eyes. And that's actually going to
Yes.
change what's going on in the body, with your physiology.
And it's funny because when I was going through my challenges, I was losing my home. I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to feed my kids. I was selling every item in my house. I was going to work as the happiest person ever. And everybody's looking at me going, how are you able to do this and laugh during the day? And I said, well,
Yeah.
what's not to laugh about? there's so many great moments during the day. Yeah, I'm going to tell a joke. Yeah, I'm going to be happy. I can go to the gym and work out after work and share time with my kids and explore outside. It's releasing these boundaries that we place on ourselves, because really at the end of the day, it's our mind that puts these boundaries up. We are limitless. And I mean, it's incredible when I connect to it. We are really limitless on the capabilities that we have in our path. It's just taking those steps forward. It's one step at a time, inch by inch, but every day you're moving forward, and it's your choice how you're going to move forward. If you're going to engage and bring forth the joy that's placed in your path, it moves mountains. It really does.
And you deserve to move forward and be empowered. I think that's, the bigger pandemic is the feeling of I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. And, that's absolutely a falsehood, but so many people lock onto that and live a life from that space and that place. And that doesn't lead to reaching your full potential, right? So it really is important to empower yourself and know that you are worthy to have a beautiful life. And we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take a break here on the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, and you are listening to Cheryl Kreft. Cheryl Kreft is an intuitive psychic medium, and she's helping clients work through, their healing, their trauma, their suffering, but also to help just bring clarity to life, how to move forward in a way that's going to serve you, and so that you can reach your full potential. Stay with us, and we'll be back here on Sauga 960 AM. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. And remember that your mindset is like a muscle that needs to be strengthened and conditioned. So this is your mindset workout. Today, we are talking about how to gain clarity and closure in some of life's biggest challenges. And my guest today is Cheryl Kreft. She is an intuitive psychic medium, helping to bring that clarity and closure to her patients, and also to empower them to move forward in a way that really is serving them and leading them to their best selves. So Cheryl, I want to talk to you about your intuitive and psychic abilities, and your journey and how you really started to develop that.
Well, it was interesting because each of my pregnancies was a catalyst. I started having a lot of different experiences and situations that kind of came up that my intuition kind of kicked in, and I followed it. And there was validation after that. It was stronger than I expected. And I had this raw experience in my life. My then husband and I tried for 5 years of having my child. My last fertility treatment took. And 2 weeks before he was born, my husband walked off.
Whoa. Oh, ouch.
Right?
Oh, painful.
So I got a text message that he was out and he took his money with him and he took the life with him. And I was left with my oldest son and this brand new baby, not even getting mat leave yet. And my world was ripped open. I became raw and real and really had to look at who I was, which I had completely lost myself in that situation, Tania. It was not a healthy relationship. And I really had to step out of my box and decide, who am I going to be? Who do I want to be for my children? Who do I want to become internally and externally? What does my life want to line up to be? So I started exploring things and going into different situations and challenging myself in different ways. And through this, I connected to the gym, which was fantastic. This really was an empowering experience. I connected to an incredible community of people who were like-minded and supportive and all different walks of life. And they didn't know what was going outside of my life. So it was nice. I could walk in and nobody was asking about the challenges I was experiencing. They were just celebrating the successes in my journey there. And, it became kind of me wearing armor with my muscle. I had lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
I became this fierce machine. You did not mess with this lady.
Don't even try.
Oh
Wow. I
my
love it.
goodness. Yes. From the woman who wouldn't speak up or speak her mind or say her piece, to the woman who made it very clear what was okay and not okay in her path. It was a beautiful time. It was something I really celebrate now, and very challenging walking through, but worth every step.
Oh, I love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
what's really key is that you said it was a beautiful time, and
Oh, yes.
obviously ripped emotions apart, where all of a sudden your life as you knew it completely upside down. Your husband left you, just as you're having, a newborn in a couple of weeks and taking the money. And so, a lot of people right there, are in panic mode. And why, of course, you
Mm-hmm.
would be in panic mode, right? Why wouldn't you be? But the thing is that you know it's really key to remember that those moments are opportunities. There's something there
Oh,
for you, always something there in your challenges. And I know it can feel gut wrenching and horrible when you're
mm-hmm.
in it, but what a beautiful story. I think a lot of people listening can really relate to you, Cheryl. Being in a situation where a relationship doesn't work out, and then finances are disrupted,
Yeah.
your world is completely disrupted. But I
Yeah.
love to see how empowered you were. So
Yeah.
interesting, where you started to go to the gym, you lost 100 pounds. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
I want to
Thank
acknowledge
you.
you for that. That is not easy. That's a lot of work, and certainly,
Mm-hmm.
committed. But it's interesting because I think a lot of people who like you, who were in a relationship where you lost yourself, you start to
Mm-hmm.
cover up the self in different ways, and it could
Yes.
be through eating, right? It could be through addiction.
The
And so,
protection.
yeah, the protection, and
Mm.
then the inability to want to focus on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you
Mm-hmm.
find that for you, having experienced that challenge and then coming out of it on the other side, now 100-pound weight loss, feeling
Yeah.
empowered and fierce, as you said,
Yes.
how did that really change your world and your environment, including your kids?
Oh, it blew it up, Tanya. It was incredible. I ripped that old foundation out, and I was strategic with every placing of every block. I mean, you literally are sitting there, and everything that comes up that's uncomfortable and a ripple of the past, you are looking at, you are diving into, and you are seeing how you're going to step forward in a new way. The finances. I held on to all these materialistic things. I didn't want to lose my house. I
Mm.
sold every item that I had purchased in that home. We left with clothing, pots and pans, and our beds. Everything
Wow.
else was sold. And during it, that was raw, but it was incredibly freeing, because when I could buy new items, it was my items, and it was exciting to explore, what do I want to bring forth in my household on the next side. The finances, when you lose fear around money, you never have it again. You realize that there's the ups and downs, but really you just connect to the security and the basics. That other stuff that people fill their lives with, that can come and go at any point. That is
Mm-hmm.
not security. Making sure that you have food on the table, savings in the bank, is an incredible experience. Being debt free, incredible experience. That is so empowering to shift the view around finances and who I would allow into my circle. It's amazing when you go through these changes, how many people leave your path.
Mm-hmm.
And as you change, your circles change. And a lot of people hold a lot of fear around this. This is, to me, an incredible thing to celebrate, because that means you have expanded past what that person can grow to become, or choosing to grow to become. And you
Yes.
are opening up for more like-minded, empowered individuals. And it's a reflection of you growing and expanding. And that is something that is beautiful, that I think people really need to celebrate within themselves, and don't give enough acknowledgement. They're thinking these people are leaving their lives and they feel fear around it, when really it's a great opportunity to rebuild your circle and who's going to be supporting you in your path.
Yes, and I think you have to come to terms that some of those relationships will no
Mm-hmm.
longer, exist, but you will find that right relationship, in friendships or, romantic partners,
Mm-hmm,
what have you.
mm-hmm.
But it is important to allow yourself to move beyond who you think you are and not get stuck
Yes.
in a limitation
Mm.
of the self. So I love your personal example of really breaking barriers of who you thought you were to really being so super empowered and now to empowering others. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get some more examples, if we can, with some of your clients and how you've really helped them be empowered to be a different version of themselves.
Absolutely. Really exploring those things that they are scared to explore. What is the fear behind this? How are we going to push through this so that you can really achieve the highest self that you're meant to be? A lot of times there's so much fear around career base,
Mm-hmm.
reinventing ourselves in our career path. I'm almost 40. I'm flipping the plate. I'm loving every second of it. I love my job. And I help people to work through those fears of what is actually holding you back from going and exploring something that's meant to be you. You know, one client of mine always wanted to be a nurse, and she was a dental hygienist, and her daughter became a nurse, and she's watched her daughter go through this path, and she's feeling the discomforts in her job. And I said, you know, I didn't know she wanted to be a nurse, but I said, have you ever thought about being a nurse? Because I can see you being a nurse. I can see you connecting with this doctor. I see this whole path in the USA, and I see Arizona being strong for you. And she just, her mouth hit open because that's something she's always dreamt of and
Wow.
always wanted. I said, you know, the 4 years that you're wasting thinking about this, you could have been done this I don't know how many times. Why are
Mm-hmm.
we wasting another 4 year cycle? Let's dig in. Let's get that going. What is holding us back? And we were kind of working through the steps and the processes of this. And by the end, she's like, God, I can't believe I've wasted this much time.
Wow, that's beautiful because yeah, a lot of people just decide that, well, if I've made this choice, there's no changing
Mm.
it, right? But you can always change, and we have an incredible mind where we can learn new things, right? Our mind is
Oh,
very plastic. We've got
yes.
neuroplasticity that allows us to create new neural networks and to learn new things, and it is always possible. So it's important to just not give up on those dreams. So I love
Oh,
how you
yeah.
could really specifically, see for her what was, her dream and her future, right?
And how we're going to make that work. It doesn't have to be a right now dive in. Let's do little chunks. Let's
Mm-hmm.
take those little bites stepping forward. It doesn't have to be eating the whole elephant at once. We can do it piece by piece and still make it out on the other side. It's,
Yeah.
people don't realize there's options, there's different opportunities to explore this and connect with it.
Yeah, and people again listening to that story who might have been in a similar situation, in a career wasn't their, ideal career, but it's nice to hear stories like this that can help
Yeah.
them say, okay, well, what can I do to not give up on
Mm.
that dream? And obviously, we have to, pay the bills, and there's reality and there's responsibilities, but there is always a way around that. When you have a
Mm-hmm.
true passion and an ability, for things, I think it's really important to really honor that and to see where that can, take you. If you love it,
Mm.
please don't get stuck in an
Oh,
environment that you don't love, because it's so destructive to the body and to the mind.
well, and the universe always supports you. I find when you connect to the right path, it is so beautifully fluent. And when we're forcing things and we receive block after block after block, is this really meant for us? Or is this an expectation we set on ourselves that wasn't aligned with who we are?
Hmm.
You know?
Because if you think it's not possible for you, then you're
Yeah.
going to create what's not possible. If you think it's
Mm.
possible, again, the universe does support you in that, and you'll find those opportunities. And you don't have to know everything, just take
No,
one step and then the rest will unfold. I think we've all been there. It's like
trust.
you go, how did I get from here to there? Right. And it was exactly
Yeah.
trust, having that
Yeah.
faith and trust, knowing that, okay, and I'm just going to take action and then see what happens. Right.
Yeah. And if we need assistance, be specific on what we need. Put that out there. You will receive it. They are listening on the other side always. And it's incredible because everybody has this beautiful team of cheerleaders around them when I connect to them. And it's,
Wow.
utilize it. It's
Oh,
not just earth realm. We have assistance on the other side that just needs, a specific question to be able to help us and step forth in our path. It's beautiful when you start connecting to that and building that trust with the other side as well and bringing it forth in your day to day. It's so empowering.
I love that. Well, speaking of assistance, we're out of time, but I'd love for you, Cheryl, to be able to tell the listeners how they can get more information and contact you.
Absolutely. I have a scheduling app on Schedulisty through OPIES Connection, OPIES Connection. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm happy to assist. Just send me a message and I'll be able to shoot you in the right direction or be able to give any kind of clarity to any questions you are asking.
I love that. Clarity is so sweet and beautiful, and it really can, direct you in the on the right course, and
Yes.
get rid of some of that resistance that keeps us stuck and limited. Right, so opening up that mindset, which is really always very key. So, Cheryl, I want to thank you so much for being on the Mindset Mentor today. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. This was just great.
I love it. Well, it's a fun conversation to have, and always remember that anybody listening right now, I want you to remember that you can go through some horrific life challenges
Yeah.
and come out it on the other side, like Cheryl. Right, her world fell
Mm.
apart. Her husband left her 2 weeks before her baby was coming to this beautiful world and took the finances with him. And so
Mm-hmm.
you know please remember that your biggest challenges in life can be your greatest opportunities, and
Yes.
let's start to look at them a little sooner than being prolonging our suffering. I think is important.
Absolutely, girl.
I love it. All right, everyone. Well, that is a wrap for today's show. So I want to thank you for tuning in, and remember to work your mindset. You got this.
Mm.
You absolutely got this. You can do it. You are a limitless, infinite being, and you are worthy. Stay with us, and we'll
Oh.
be back after this.